What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I'm just waking up, looking at my comments, reviewing what went on last night. The heavyweight division is getting more and more interesting. Chicken brawls and what I mean, with Billy Joe and Wilder's camp, which is good. It all sells hype. But if we want to look about the hype, we could talk about who's scared. We could talk about who's ducking or who ducked. We can talk about who avoided. We could talk about a lot of things because that's what you hear a lot about. But no one really talks about the true meaning that fight never got made, or it didn't get made right now, between Joshua and AJ. And what's happening now, because Wilder and Fury are getting it on. Nobody wants to talk about Joshua. They're like, well, Joshua's not in there. But the reason for Joshua and Wilder, the true reason that these guys haven't got into the ring thus far, is because of character and personality. Character and personality. If you look at Joshua's a cool, calm, collective dude. You look at Wilder, man, he got a perfect name. Deontay Wilder. And he's wild. You know what I'm saying? He's not. They don't have the same type. They didn't grow up to get. It's like one guy has a certain personality trait. The other guy has another totally different opposite personality trait. Wilder's in your face. He's, not necessarily obnoxious. He's not that. Mayweather was obnoxious when he became the newfound money Mayweather. But, Deontay, yeah, he has a radical style. He's wild. And you look at Fury, then you look at Klitschko. See, now you got to add all these factors up, these key factors for guys. See, Klitschko is another calm, collective dude. Why do you think that fight between Joshua and Klitschko happened so easily? You didn't hear about fights. Oh man, it's this, something's going on with that, and we're talking about venue. There's no date. You know what I mean? Oh man, you didn't hear about that. You didn't hear none of those excuses. That fight got made. Klitschko stepped into the ring because there was a signed contract. Okay. Now, but these guys, they jailed. They were equally yoked. They had similar personality. They promoted that fight, and it was one of the best fights of 2017. Hands down, especially for, the only good, you had Triple G, Canelo, Klitschko, Joshua, and what was another good fight. But those were the candidates for best fight. And I think the Klitschko Joshua fight was the best. I just think you know what I mean? Because you had knockdowns, you had drama, you had action. You were like, I had a friend of mine that he watches UFC. You know what I mean? And he even said, because he thought boxing was boring. That's why I don't like boxing, because it's boring. But he saw that fight all the way through, but fights like that gets people that are not boxing fans to watch the fight. You know what I mean? They get tuned in, and they're going to remember those names. They're going to remember Anthony Joshua. They're going to remember Klitschko. And then Klitschko was known for a boring fighter at one point. I used to hate Klitschko. I used to hate his style. When he was with Emmanuel Stewart, and Emmanuel Stewart used to complain because he was, he was too timid to throw punches. He was like a boring, robotic version of Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali did that a lot. He pulled the fighter's head down, you know what I mean? And that's how his way, because he was a lot taller than most fighters like Klitschko is, and that's how he did. He pulled a fighter in, to stop them from fighting, to clinch up. So I get that. It was a tactic, but I hated it, So him fighting Joshua, it was refreshing to see an action fight from Klitschko. You know what I mean? That's why I'm proud of him for a lot of reasons. His age, his determination, his effort, So, yeah, but these guys had similar personality traits. Now look at Wilder, look at Fury, similar personality traits. Both of these guys are wild, rugged, unorthodox. You know what I'm saying? And they got this fight done quickly. And you heard nothing in the backdrop, no behind the scenes. You have no date. You have no venue. Wasn't that the problem? Wasn't that the problem, guys? And I want the excuse to hear from all these other channels that, they are just pro Wilder. You know what I mean? What's the excuse? You guys know there's no date, there's no venue. At least in the Joshua negotiations, you knew Joshua did book an April date. So you can't say, okay, well that's mine right then because I know I want to fight him. Those deals are still on the table, I mind you. They're still on the table. So it's like, okay, well, that was your excuse. There's no date and there's no venue on it, but you accept all terms. Accepting all terms means accepting all terms. No matter when it's gonna be, you're gonna fight him. Forget, I want to fight him next. Well, I mean, if it was that bad, if he wanted to end up like Triple G, I don't think he did. And it made sense to me. He didn't want to end up like Triple G, you know. So yeah, that was a clash of personality though. So it came down to personality. Wilder just didn't like Joshua. That's what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. He just didn't like him. You know what I mean? I lost a lot of respect for him, but the same things happened in the fight that you accepted. And there's still no date, there's still no venue. That's not a problem in you guys' negotiation. You guys are still going to fight. You didn't run to social media saying there's no date, no venue. You know what I mean? I can't do this. Like Shelly Finkel claimed. Now it's not making sense. It just leads to more excuses, people. That's what it is. Excuses. So it's like, okay, now what? You guys fight. You knock out Fury or Fury outboxes you, because that's Fury's only chance. I don't see Fury knocking out Wilder. Let's face it, with Fury's hardest punch, I don't, and I would be surprised now because, we said the same thing about Ali and Foreman. You know what I mean? And Foreman had a similar record to Wilder. Fury, he never got beat, but he was that guy, right? So he is that guy that's coming back on the scene that did take and did challenge the strong knockout artist. You know what I mean? So it's similar. You can look at that. You take that as a comparison. So, you never know, in other words. I'm saying all that to say this. You never know. Okay, that could happen. But yeah, I just think it came down to personality traits. These two guys, these four guys rather, it was easier to get a fight with each other because they thought the same way. They did business the same way. Fury did business a lot like Wilder, right? It was more on the forefront of, hey, yeah, I'm not doing this, instead of, in the negotiations table. And it's funny, they're not even talking about the terms. They got hush-hush about it. Tyson Fury was all about it until they asked him those type of questions. And, oh, no, we're not talking about that. I don't talk about, your underlining terms. Then he looked at Frank Warren. Frank Warren gave his own, statement about it, right? But then, this fight was so easy to get made, and everyone was like, oh, you see, this fight's getting easier to made because, Tyson Fury wanted to fight. Well, I think he picked the right time to call out Wilder. You know what I mean? But it's not because of the countryman in Britain. It's because these guys have similar personality traits. They think a lot alike. They're radical. You know what I'm saying? Unorthodox. And I think because of that, I don't know how the quality of the fight is, but I know the negotiations are made because these guys generally like each other and they have respect for each other. You know what I mean? Whereas Klitschko and Joshua respect each other and like each other. That's how those fights are made, in that's what it is. That's all it is. So, so if you look at it in a nutshell, this fight was made solely because of character and personality, because Wilder ain't going to chase anyone. Joshua, he's not going to chase anyone. It's not in his thing, just like Klitschko's not. Think about it. Klitschko didn't have to chase nobody. Shannon Briggs was chasing Klitschko. Wilder didn't want that fight with Klitschko. See, we can't ignore this. Joshua didn't want that fight with Ortiz. They wanted to pay him some step-aside money, and Ortiz was like, no, I want to fight. So, yeah, these guys have discrepancies, and it was times in the game. If you think about it, I'm going to leave you guys with this. If AJ would have fought Ortiz, that would have left no excuse. Because see, if you'd have fought Ortiz, Wilder, that would have took the opportunity for Wilder to take that fight finally, because that fight was brewing, because Ortiz was over here first before he went over there. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the one thing, if a fighter, if you ignore him for a very long time or enough, it will come back to bite you. And it came back and it bit both fighters. You think about it. Wilder ended up fighting Ortiz and getting full credit for that, right? But he was an older fighter. They say, oh, we don't never know how old he was. He said it in the press conference. So, I mean, okay, well, you said he couldn't hit, but he hurt you in the 7th round with a right hand, and it's a southpaw. You know what I mean? Yeah, those are a lot of contradictions you can just break down, Just like, Wilder didn't want to fight Klitschko. We're not ready for that fight. Dude, he has 30 fights. When will he be ready? At 50 fights? You know what I mean? Joshua stepped up. We all knew that. We already discussed that, right? So, yeah, there's both sides of the story. But it ultimately comes down to personality with these 4 guys, So just think about it. I mean, I want you guys, take on it. Because if it wasn't for the, the support and the comments, the channel's nothing without the camaraderie, without the discussion, the counterpunching, the rebuttals. So anyway, give me your take on it. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.